And we are live here on Plus One EXP's Roll for Content channel. My name is Tony Vicenda. I am Chief Alchemist here at Plus One EXP. I'm going to turn myself down a little bit also, too, coming in hot. Just reset everything up after coming back from PAX Unplugged. So if there's anything weird about my audio, feel free to let me know if you are watching live. But we're excited to be here on Procedures at Play for an afternoon conversation with one of my favorite designers, somebody who's, I think, does some of the best Morkborg stuff out there, a designer I'm always excited to see what they've come up with. I love Chris's house system also, too. And as soon as I saw them talking about this project, before Procedures in Play was even a format we had, I wanted to sit down and talk with Chris about Down in Yongardy, which is a tremendous homage to a lot of things while being, I think, tremendously singular in its execution. But that said, I have not actually played through it yet because I'm a big physical book person, and those physical books are traveling from China to the UK right now, and then will eventually make its way to me. But I did get a chance to read through a little bit of the PDF today. Chris, for folks who aren't familiar with your work, why don't you tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, and where they can find you online?
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Chris Bissette, as I think you said. I run a small press called Loot the Room, which is just the name I hide behind. It's just me, there's no other people. I made a solo game called The Wretched about 5 years ago that a lot of people know, and I write adventures, role-playing games, music, all sorts of stuff. Too much stuff, some people might say, including me.
I would. Before we dive into this, specifically Down in Yongardy, you're also doing a thing right now. I do want to make sure we shout out the top. You do an Advent something every year, and right now you just dropped your Advent novel. You want to tell people a little bit about that?
Yeah, I've been doing this for like 5 years. They in the past they've always been modular adventures, like sandbox adventures released a day at a time. This year I decided to write some fiction because I like writing fiction. So I'm releasing a serialized fantasy horror grimdark novella thing through December. The first chapter came out on the 1st, it's now the 3rd. There have been 3 chapters. There will be a chapter a day until Christmas. It's called The Mouth of Winter. It's the brooding, gothic, moody tone of Mexican Gothic meets the nihilistic violence of Joe Abercrombie, is how I've been pitching it. It's over on itch, so loottheroom.itch.io/advent 2025. It's £3.99, so like $5, I think, for 70,000 words, roughly. And I'm putting extras out on Patreon and stuff. It's really fun. I've had a lot of fun writing it. And it's the first advent calendar I've done where I've written the whole thing in advance. So I don't have to do any writing this month, which is lovely.
I just dropped the link in the chat for anybody watching live right now. Also, and there's the link to Down in Yongardy, which will take you to Chris's itch page also too, and let you spread out from there in the description down below. I paid $7 for it because that was the recommended amount. And I said, if that's what Chris recommends, then I am happy to pay that much.
Chris actually recommends like 2 or 3 grand. Like, that's my real recommendation.
Oh dang, I guess I'll have to go back. And so
give me all your money. That's my brand.
We also have Meat Castle in the chat. Hey Chris, excited to see you here. Anybody else who's watching, if you have questions as we go along, please toss them out. And also, before one more thing again before we dive in, we were just talking about before we went live, and I think it's worth mentioning. You got to play a boss in Over Under. Recently.
With Meat Castle, in fact.
Yeah, so it was this really singular experience. Though there are things we were talking about, there are things like it online. The cultural moment of playing Over Under. Which was very different for a lot of the people involved in it, was a really distinctive one that happened. You want to give us just a quick breakdown on your experience of play, who you were, what you were up to, and maybe a favorite kind of moment or two from play.
Yeah. So I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what Cataphract was. Sam messaged me the day before it went live and said, hey, do you want to play in this big war game that I'm running on Discord? And I was like, sure, why not? Sam sent me a link to the boss documents, and I was like, what's a boss? What's all this mean? And then before I'd managed to even situate myself and figure out what we were doing, 2,000 people jumped into the server. It was wild. I was a boss of a faction called the CHC, the Canyon Heavy collective. We were elite hackers, and I lost a month of my life to the. Am I allowed to swear on this? I
Yeah,
lost a month
always.
of my life to the fucking thing. Just loads of people said Sam had told them that it would be like a 1 or 2 hour a day commitment, and I didn't. I spent 20 hours a day playing it for 2 weeks before I took a break. We initiated very early on. We had a referendum to initiate cowboy bedtime to stop people
It was one of my
being up all
favorite things
night.
in the game. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I recruited one of my friends who is not a gamer, who writes erotica, to run, I think, Over Under's first PSYOP, RIP Kit Marlowe. We auctioned a token and created some chaos. I've been telling these stories at Dragon Meet this weekend, and it's one of those things where you really did have to be there. You tell these stories to people who were involved in Over Under, and you see their eyes glaze over. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
It was wild.
It is like I was telling you, and I'll talk about this again multiple times over the next 2 months and probably beyond. Like I was resisting doing it because I knew it would be a time suck, and I did not have time. And I was like, you know what? I'm going out of town next week. I'll have to travel. I won't be able to do this. I'm going to hop in for a week, play, like get enough credits built up that I can just come back whenever I want and do it. And it was such a tremendously fun time. I did manage to play, I think, no more than 3 hours on any given day. But
Well done.
the temptation to do more. Well, I was also just a denizen. Like I didn't
Yeah.
have to do anything. And so
Yeah, I have no idea what it must have been like to be a denizen, because like we had the war game to
yeah,
contend with. Like we were super paranoid the whole time. When the game started, I was one of the 3 bosses of the CHC. One of the bosses dropped out. He had life stuff and couldn't play, but we didn't know. So we were down to 2 bosses for like 3 days, and the other boss, Chris Eyre, was just off doing his own thing. So for the first 3 days, I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do? Which is why the CHC ended up being such a small faction, because I was just like, I don't know what the hell is happening. I recruited like 30 people. Other factions were like 600, 700 strong,
yeah,
and we were just this gang of weirdos who made a hell of a lot of noise
yeah. But
and
I think
pissed off everybody.
yeah, but I think it's also a beloved faction by all. Like it's one of the
I
factions
hope so.
that no one had really negative. Like I never heard anything negative about the CYC. Like it
Oh,
was always.
we heard a lot of negative shit about
Well,
the
I
CHC.
really love the CYC, but I was a Teamster mainly because Teamsters were the easiest one to get into. Like people would just be like,
Yeah,
I don't know, they'll give you money over there. Cool, that's that's great. I'll go do that. And so yeah, it was really cool to see. We'll have some more on the channel about that. We're gonna get Sam on. Along with hopefully some other folks to talk about their experience. Yeah, because it's tremendously unique cultural moment that just passed, but like really cool to talk to people who got to be um, on the other side. So
it's really cool that everybody had a completely different experience of
experience,
it as
yeah,
well. Like
yeah.
everyone I speak to played a different
Um,
game. It's really cool.
I'll ask you a question at the end that I'll prepare you for right now.
Okay.
And because I don't need it to dissolve into systems discourse, but I am curious about people's answer to the question: were we playing Mothership when we were playing Over Under? But we'll come back to that at the
Okay.
very end as a sign off question, because I don't need us to talk about it forever, or hear too many opinions in the chat. But, yeah, no, I have been excited about this for a long time. I am somebody who typically falls in love with the prose and the writing style of different creators we work with. You distinctively are good at writing large amounts, but also really terse and intentional language usage. And those things oftentimes overlap. Like I love when I get to read long sections of prose by you. I love when I get to read your tables. And so seeing you be able to flex your muscles in a product that is essentially for Americans a choose your own adventure style book, and for people in the UK and in Europe to a certain degree, like an advanced fighting fantasy solo book, like was really cool to see you be able to do both the game design work that I love seeing you do as well as the writing. But it also seems like a insane process to think about how did you write this, right? And
Yeah.
so like I just want to start with well, let's start with talking about what the project is. So can you describe a little bit about the themes and the tone and the narrative kind of what the story is about for
Yeah.
Yongardy before we get into
Um,
the structural questions?
so if you're not familiar with Troika, Troika is a game primarily made up of its backgrounds. Like all the setting lives in the backgrounds of Troika, and they're like sort of the character classes that you play. And there's one background in Troika called the Yongardy lawyer, which I have been in love with since I first read the game. I'm going to pull up the actual text of the Yongardy lawyer right now just to
Yeah.
read it to you. I know it starts saying something like, down in Yongardy, they love the law. I can't find it.
Down in Yongardy, this is at the top of the itch page, which I just dropped
Oh,
the
cool.
link in. Down in Yongardy, they do things differently. They respect the law. Every day, there's a queue outside the courts to get a seat.
Oh yeah, this is me, not
This is
Troika.
your text. This is not the actual text.
Yeah.
I'll read this while you're looking. Down in Yongardy, they
Cool.
do things a little differently. They respect the law. Every day, there's a queue outside the courts to get a seat to see the latest up and coming barrister defend his case with 3 feet of steel. The people follow the careers of their favorite solicitors, watch all of their cases, collect their portraits, and sneak into the court after hours to dab patches of blood on white handkerchiefs.
Oh, that is Troika, actually. I just pulled it up. That's not
All the
me.
better
That's
to
Troika.
get closer to the hero. And Yongardy, they love the law. So yeah, that's the character classes, which is just like, it is insane. It is classic Troika. It is like,
yeah,
holy shit, what is this? I wanna dive in and know more, right? And that was for you the situation. Like you read this and you fell in love.
That was the catalyst for it. I read that, and I was also reading Kafka's The Trial at the same time. And there's a moment in the trial where he goes on this like chase. He's up in the kind of the upper courts in all these like bureaucratic offices, and there's like trials happening in rooms all around the place, and you don't really know what the hell is going on. And the two of them just sort of merged in my head, and I had this picture of a Yongardy lawyer running through the upper rooms of a courthouse, like falling through the floors, and it just being this chaotic, stressful chase. And I was like, I want to write that book. And initially, I just was going to write a Troika adventure. This is like 2020 we're talking about. This is right after first lockdown. My partner and I had gone on holiday. We were supposed to go on holiday like away, and then we couldn't, and we ended up going to a little cottage in the Lake District in the UK. And a secondhand bookshop there had a load of old fighting fantasy books. And I used to have a full collection of fighting fantasy books, and I sold them years ago. And I was like, damn, I miss these books. And so I was reading Troika, I was reading The Trial, and I was reading and playing The Warlock of Firetop Mountain. And I just was like, I need to write this book. So that's when I started writing it. The story of Down in Yongardy is you are a newly qualified Yongardy lawyer, and in order to qualify as a lawyer, you need to fight your first trial. So you pick up your sword, you put on your mask, you go to the courtroom, you fight a trial, and you kill your opponent, and then you realize that your opponent is somebody who you should not have killed. Sort of an homage to, like, have you seen a Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger?
Yeah.
There's that whole plot with the Black Prince of Wales where nobody else will fight him because they know who he is, and he's just like, well, you know, he put himself up for it. Like he knows what he's doing. I'm gonna fucking stand there and fight him. It's that. And so the book is you kill someone you shouldn't have killed, and you go on the run to try and clear your name in 400 paragraphs.
Yeah. So like I said, it is something that I think there's a lot of people who like, oh, they'll pick up a choose your own adventure. They'll check out an advanced fighting fantasy solo novel. And they'll be like, oh, this seems cool. The concept for how to write one, I think, is something that a lot of people like wouldn't know, unless your name is Steve Jackson. And that doesn't matter whether you are the US Steve Jackson, who did weirdly write 2 advanced fighting fantasy books to make everything confusing, or the other Steve Jackson who wrote all the rest of the advanced fighting fantasy books from the UK. But this is also like the fun thing about this is advanced fighting fantasy is essentially the root of Troika. Like Troika is a retro clone of advanced fighting fantasy, but it's done in a GM style. You are essentially taking Troika back to the true roots of the retro clone and saying like, let's make a solo version of this. So like it was right to happen. And it's wild that Troika hasn't been out that long, like, but it's the reality of like more of these not existing almost is wildly surprising to me because it seems like a natural fit.
it seems obvious to me. And they're like, you know, Fighting Fantasy started off as solo game books, and then they released Dungeoneer, which was the GM'd version of Fighting Fantasy. And the idea of that is that you can pick up a Fighting Fantasy game book and run it for your friends. Um, and yeah, and then obviously like Troika comes along, and I was like, why has nobody gone the other way with this? Why has nobody written a game book? And I remember talking to Dan Sell about it early on when I started writing it, and even he was saying like he was surprised nobody else had done it. Having now spent 4 years writing the thing, I understand why nobody else has done it because it was really fucking hard.
Yeah.
It
And
was a nightmare.
so let's dive into it. Like you had this vision for the overall narrative structure that you wanted. There's this chase that's running
Mhm.
around, proving yourself, having killed somebody you shouldn't have. But then you have to write the thing. Like you
Yeah.
have to actually make it. What talk to us a little bit about what your process for that was like.
Yeah. A lot of flowcharts going into that. Um, Classic fighting fantasy books have 400 linked paragraphs. They're not always one paragraph, you know, sometimes they're longer, sometimes they're shorter, but they have 400 linked sections that all interlink through each other. And so my initial process was sitting down, splitting it into chunks of 400 and being like, okay, I need an act one, an act two, and an act three. How many paragraphs are going to be in each act? What's going to happen? Like, what's the actual story? And it's interesting because you're not just writing, obviously, you start in the same point and you're largely aiming at the end point, but you're not just writing one book in the middle.
Right.
You're writing diverging narratives, and it's a lot of going, well, what are the important decision points and how can they branch the narrative off? And also, how can I pull things back round because you only have limited space? And so there was a lot of sketching, and I think I used the most. I'm fairly sure that if anybody who actually writes these things for a living saw the way I wrote this book, they would beat me around the back of the head and be like, "There's such a better way of doing this. Um, there has to be a better way of doing it than the way I did it. I just sort of brute forced it." But yeah, lots of my initial thing was breaking it down into like large chapters and being like, okay, here's the court scene, which is sort of character creation, and then I knew that when I have three stories in this thing, which was a mistake as well. I should have stuck to just like one main path. But it was like, okay, so the lawyer leaves the court, they can go to the basement or to the roof, and then that's two branches. And then it was like, cool, what other options from here? How do we break this out? How do we make like choke points where everything focuses back in to narrow the options so that I can move into the next section of the book? There was a lot of planning, like points of no return. And so I have all these. I wish I could find them. They're in here somewhere. I haven't got them out because I'm supremely unprepared, unfortunately. There were lots of flowcharts, and I spent a lot of time looking at. There's a really cool website that I can't remember the name of, but I googled it, and if you Google it yourself, it'll come up. Somebody has spent a very long time pulling apart the structures of fighting fantasy books, of choose your adventure books, of the lone wolf books, and making SVG flowcharts of them. And so I spent a lot of time looking at the flowcharts of other books in this medium and being like, how do the people who make this work make it work, and trying to learn from them. And there's even a few I'd look at them and be like, that's a really cool looking arrangement of rooms. And so I would sometimes take like chunks of the flowcharts from other books and just be like, how can I make use of this structure because it's interesting? But then I don't have my own flowcharts to show you. Maybe I should figure out how to make them, but that's just another project that I don't have time for.
If you have pictures of them later, toss them over our way. We'll put them out on social
Yeah,
media
I'm
or also
sure I
to
can
post them out.
I could probably make like a mermaid chart of the structure of this book as well, actually, now that I've said it.
Yeah. Because like I think it's really interesting. Like as somebody who again is somebody who writes regularly, who will create stories. This is an entirely different kind of deconstructed way of having to think about. And I imagine there are levels at which you were like, cool. oh, this where it feels really easy, then you come back later on and you're like, shit, that thing I did way back here was way too big and I've got to pull it
Yeah,
back in.
so much. Especially one of the things like this book was super late, and part of the reason it was super late is because it was really hard to write. And part of the reason it was hard to write was just that I tried to do too much with it. When you first kill the person you kill, I thought it would be funny to or fun and funny to give you a choice and be like, there's someone dead on the floor, who is it? And you pick one of three people, and that sends you off down one of three paths. And in my head, that was like, when you choose the starter Pokemon in like Pokemon Red, and it's like you're basically selecting difficulty.
Yeah.
In my head, that was what I was doing. But what happened was, because I'd picked this 400 paragraph limit that I wanted to stick to as much as possible, I didn't have enough space to do each of those different stories justice. And it would bloat, it would get really big, I would cut bits, I would be super unsatisfied with it. I eventually took the decision to cut one of them out and just have two potential victims. And I wish I'd made that decision like a year and a half earlier, but I didn't.
No, I love that. Like it is, like I said, it's such a distinctive way of thinking about narrative and again, all the structures that would go into it. What are some of the things, like, and you just mentioned, I wish you'd made that choice a year and a half earlier. Like for you, if you had to distill, like for somebody else who might be interested in making some branching pathways, like which for a traditional RPG structure, you can like, I mean, like we have things like, oh, you want to, make sure your, dungeon is properly sequenced or like, like all these different things that we think about so that people can have choice and have agency. A
Yeah.
GM gets to facilitate that. You just have to say to the GM, here's all your options. People can go whatever way they want. For this, there isn't that. The text has to serve in that role. Like what are some of the lessons you learned about that structure as you were going through that influences how you design now? Like, are there things you learned in this structure that have influenced the way you do other types of design?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't know if anything in this has influenced the stuff I've done since it, to be honest. It used weirdly, you mentioning like decays in dungeons, it's a lot of the similar thought processes, to be honest. Like when you're drawing a good dungeon map, you are functionally just drawing a flowchart. And so the basics of designing a good dungeon are not hugely dissimilar to designing what I hope is a good solo game book. You're thinking about loops, you're thinking about kind of the ideal path and side and like the routes that players might choose to go down. You're thinking about choke points and pinch points. It's just it's both more specific and more abstract at the same time because you obviously can't rely on the GM, and you have to be super aware of how your text is connecting because you're juggling so many things. I know a lot of people write these things in Twine, and I still haven't done it. It's one of the things that was promised in the Kickstarter that I still need to deliver was a Twine version of this game. I made the initial preview in Twine, and that was really cool. And I wish I'd kept working in Twine and written the whole damn book in Twine because
Just pulled it out.
just fucking export it out as Markdown because God, that would have been so much easier rather than going through my manuscript and like with spreadsheets. So here's a piece of advice for you. Don't do what I did. The way that like Steve Jackson and Ian Livingstone used to write their books, I remember reading this as a kid because I tried to write some of these when I was a kid, is they have a big pad with the numbers 1 to 400 on. And as they were writing, they would pick a number and they'd cross it out and they'd like mark down what paragraphs it linked to. I thought I would be really clever and break it into sections. So as I was writing like section 1A, paragraph 1, section 1A, paragraph 2. So I could keep track of how many paragraphs were in each section. But then what I had to do when I finished was go back in and renumber them 1 to 400 and shuffle them and then relink them all. And that was an absolute nightmare doing that by hand. Don't be like me. Number them the way you intend to number them from day one because you won't lose a week to being like, why have I got 4 number 73s in this book? Where are they all meant to link up? What part of the book are they from? It was hell.
Yeah.
and it was entirely my fault.
Yeah. I mean, we just put out What a Horrible Night, which is an introductory adventure by Riley Coyote um for Mythic Bastion Land. And it
Uh-huh.
is I think it's brilliant. It is we designed it as a A5 landscape, and it is the art on this side for what the GM is describing on the back side, but it is Minotaur's
Like the old school, like Dark Sun flip
yeah.
adventures.
Yep.
Sweet.
And so you literally are you're flipping it. They're seeing, and it is designed to have the feel of a classic dungeon video game, right? Where we're
Hmm.
reusing some of the intersections, but we're changing the spot art. Robbie Burns did a tremendous job on it, but like it's a labyrinth. So pages are a little choose your own adventure. They go from one place to
Yeah.
the other. It's only it is 28 pages total. It's 28 sides total, so it's 24 pages total. There are 12 pieces of art essentially in 12 narrations. They all fit together in wildly different orders. We finished it, like we went through full editing, full dev on it, play tested it, like it got everything a game needs, and we still put it out. And I just had to do a new printing of the entire thing, along with stickers, because we found out after we sent it out to 100 something people that there is an error on the first page that goes to
Oh
13 instead
no.
of 11. Um, that's a that's a much smaller reality, and it has way more in common with traditional dungeon structure. They don't link one to one. There's like labyrinthine space in between. Um, and we are and if you got it, don't worry, you're getting an email this week. You have options to just strike the 3 through with a 1, which is free. You can just do it. 2, we'll send you a sticker for free, or if you want a replacement, we will send it to you. You just have to pay shipping. Uh, but it was significantly shorter, and we still got lost like in the
Yeah.
sauce on it. Like it is a
And
complex way to do things.
yeah, and like I don't think there's any game ending mistakes in this book. Certainly nobody's got in touch with me and been like, how do I win this? You know, I can't get through it.
I mean, you're gonna get that
Um,
either way because there are some people who don't know how to play these games.
that's true. But if someone were to get in touch with me and be like, actually, there's a game breaking error here, yeah, I mean, it would suck. But also, like Creature of Havoc, one of the early Fighting Fantasy books, is unwinnable because of a numbering error where you just go round and round and round in circles and you can't break out of this loop. So, like, A, it's in the spirit of the thing, and B, people with much more experience and much more resources than me have fucked that up. So I
Yeah.
wouldn't feel too bad about it. But I hope that this book works.
I also think you've done the work in the PDF to go through and do all the digital tooling to link entry to entry, which I
Mhm.
mean, bless you. I'm
That's
like,
that took a long
yeah.
time.
But while I am waiting for my physical book to arrive to play it, I will probably pull my physical book out and use the PDF at the same time to play through it,
Yeah,
just for that
that's
reason.
that's what
Like,
I've done with playtesting.
yeah.
Like, yeah,
Because it is incredibly like the PDF is incredibly well executed to be able to play through all of those different elements and track where you are at. So like yeah, it's such a good articulation, but it is, like I said, even just getting a small taste of what the picking entry to entry process looks like in a very linear fashion. Like it is. Oh, we lost Chris. Chris will be back in a second. Whoa.
don't know what happened there.
I don't know either. It's fine. Hold on.
Like, there we go.
Show full video. That should get us all back in spot. We're all good. But yeah, even just having a small taste of it, like I said, it's super impressive just to kind of see the work that kind of went in and through this. Speaking of play testing, right? Like, tell us a little bit about that process. Was that mostly you? Was that handing off the text to other people? What did
Yeah,
that look like?
the playtesting was entirely me until I felt like it was text complete, and then I handed it to a couple of friends, and my editor has like he played through it a lot, and he went through and checked like all the links and stuff. Um, I didn't worry too much about anything like balance. Like it's deliberately not, I'm not going to say unbalanced, but not balanced, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
These are the traditional Final Fantasy books. They were not fair. You died in one hit to monsters a lot of the time. You had lots of insta death, and I know that some people are not a fan of that, but I think that's really fun. And so I just sort of committed to it. Um, there are fights in here where you might just get wrecked if the dice go against you, and I think that's part of the charm of these games.
Yeah, it is. It is one of the things I loved the first time I got into the Advanced Final Fantasy books. When I was in my mid 20s, I found out they existed and ordered every version I could off of some sort of bulk site that sold them in the U.S. and had a great time with it because like I was getting to dive into a form of solo gaming that was completely foreign, but I got wrecked repeatedly, like first thing in an adventure. And honestly, like because it was like with a American choose your own adventure book, that feels really shitty. Like it feels like you're
Yeah.
just guessing and you're trying to make it out. With a fighting fantasy book, it feels like, oh, this is actually pretty much how I feel like this should go. Like this is I am an adventure. This is not easy. Even though there's a lot of luck, I feel success like on dice is rewarding me. There's also still moments of like if you did this thing back here, guess what? Like you don't have to make this. Like there's these
Yeah.
moments of like of like surprise that you get to have where you feel rewarded for clever choices you previously made. Whereas a choose your own adventure book, sometimes that feels like it, but it is just more like playing Candyland where you're like, hey, this is
Uh-huh.
just luck. Like I had two choices, neither was really obvious on how I should make that choice. Like I made a 50-50 guess and I guessed right? Because they're
Yeah.
designed for children, so they're not considering like, did you notice this small detail or other things like that. Um
Totally.
and I think that's my next question for the writing though is like how much, again, lots of times in old school style play there is this like interrogative process for detail. Like is there a way that as you were writing that you kind of refined how much was too little or too much information per paragraph?
Yeah, there wasn't anything really scientific about it. It was more like what feels good, what feels right. Um, I'm very much an overwriter, and then I go back and chop, chop, chop until it can't take any more chopping, basically. So that's my process with fiction. That's my process with RPGs, and that was my process with this, where it was just like just get the draft down and then go back and get it right. Um, there's a there's a lot of stuff in here where like you can get items that like skip sections and things like that. I didn't worry too much about, oh, what if players don't pick up on this? What if they miss it? Because part of the fun of these games is you can revisit them. They're intended to be revisited. It intends for you to go back through and replay it and make different choices. And in fact, there's one path through the book where you get the chance to do that, where you get to what is effectively the end of the book and hop through a door, and it bounces you right back to the start and lets you keep a couple of items and just do the whole thing again. Which I enjoyed writing that. I had a big smile on my face when I figured out that I could just do that. Like
Yeah,
there's no reason I can't do that.
love it. Is are there any endings that you have seen be less likely to occur like from playtests? Like is there a level at which you're seeing some things be just more statistically common for players?
Yeah, so I did the which Far Cry game is it where if you don't do anything, if you just stand there, the bad guy kills someone and walks out the room, and the game is like expects you to run, but if you just stand there for 10 minutes, he comes back in and is like, cool, we're all good, and the game ends. I put that in it. So right at the this is a spoiler for anyone who's not played the game. So if you don't, just stop listening for the
Cover
next
your
two or
ears
three
for a few
minutes. Yeah,
minutes.
yeah. The plot twist is that like you're a lawyer, you were in a sanctioned fight. Like the person who you killed knew they might get killed. Like it's no big deal. But you go on this fucking killing spree to escape the courts, and that's where you commit your crime. But if you just right at the start of the book, just after you've killed him, just stand there and be like, okay, I guess I'll take my punishment now. You win. And I know that at least one person from who backed it on Kickstarter and who wasn't a playtester triggered that ending because he messaged me and it was like, that can't be the whole book. And I was like, no, bro, play it again. Play it again and make a different
Play
choice.
to get it made. You
But
did not
yeah,
need to send me this
not
message.
none of my playtesters took that ending. None of
That's
them took
so
that
funny.
option.
That's so funny. There's also a utopia choose your own adventure that classically you cannot achieve. You cannot discover utopia in the book. Sorry, spoilers alert for 40-year
Spoilers
old
for anyone
book.
who doesn't know the definition of the word
Yeah,
utopia.
yeah, yeah. But you can't get it. There is a paragraph in the book that is not connected to any of the prompts, so you cannot get to it.
Mhm.
That does so like the utopia entry is written. There is
But
no
you can't
way in
get
the
to it.
book to get to it. So
Yeah.
you can flip through and find it, and it looks like you can get there, which apparently drove people nuts for years.
Amazing. I really wanted to do some stuff like that. I had these big plans for um I wanted to put the sorcery books, which were a branch off of fighting fantasy that introduced magic. They have this really cool spell system where you just have to remember a three-letter word, and when you can use spells, you're given like an array of words, and if you pick the wrong one, it's not a real spell sort of thing. And so I knew I wanted to use that. I knew I wanted to put magic into the book because I think it's cool. I had this idea of a spell where you basically roll dice, and whatever dice, whatever number you roll takes you to a paragraph, and the spell has a completely random effect. I really wanted to put that in the book, but obviously, like, that's so many paragraphs
Yeah.
for one bit that you can only use once. So
Um,
that didn't end up in the book. But
that's great. So for the next one of these you do, you're going to work that in, right?
yeah, I have such big ideas for doing these sorts of books. A book that I've wanted to write for years would be effectively a. I keep saying choose your adventure. I actually got a message very early on because I used the term choose your adventure on the Kickstarter, and someone messaged me and said
You
they
cannot.
will sue
They
you.
will
They
sue
will
your
sue you.
ass.
Yeah. I've had this idea for years for what is effectively a choose your adventure PBTA book set in the Library of Babel. So the idea is that you're exploring the library room by room, and it's this infinite library, and you start with one move, which is like roll a d6 and turn to that paragraph, and that's all you can do. And
Oh,
then through play, you would gain more moves that get you deeper into the library and further into the book. And I wanted to like hide moves, like have a move printed on the inside of like the inside of the spine.
yeah,
So if
yeah.
you physically take the book apart, you get another move that you can use, and like all this sort of shit, and like loads of weird shit with rolling dice to navigate through the book. I would love to do that, but this book took me 4 years to write.
Right. So, but the next one will go faster. That's the thing. Like
Oh yeah, that's gonna
you
be
know what
fine.
not to
Yeah.
do now.
Yeah, the big lesson I learned with this one, not to do, is don't kickstart it before you finish
Before you
writing it,
finish it, which is
because
a
it might take you four.
good general advice, but also sometimes you got to do a
Yeah,
Kickstarter.
it was a shame because like this was what I'd done Wretched Troll King Underthought. This was my fifth Kickstarter, and every time I'd done one before, I had finished the book before I went to Kickstarter, and I was like, do you know what? The point of Kickstarter is to give you the funding to make a project possible. I don't want to write this book if nobody wants to buy it, so I'm going to Kickstart before I write it. And I'm glad I did it. I wish I'd got the book out quicker, because not getting it out meant I've not been able to do any other Kickstarters for like 4 years, which has screwed me financially. It's my own fault. But yeah, I don't see a world where I get to write another one of these things, because I'd have to fund it first, and there's just no way I could do that having done it once already. Like anything I kickstart from now on is gonna be finished first.
Yeah.
So
Well, once you're a multi-millionaire game
yeah,
designer,
that's it.
then you can take the
I
time.
am I am a millionaire in waiting, so it's fine. That day will come.
Yeah. A couple comments from chat. Signal Station does call out that it's Far Cry 4 that you're talking
Thank you.
about. Uh,
I haven't actually played the game. I just remember seeing someone make a YouTube video about that and being like, "That's fucking amazing."
That's great. Yeah. Dansylvania, Mike Martin says, kind of want to write one of these where 95% of the content is unreachable, which I
Do
mean
it,
goes a little bit
please.
into your PBTA. Like, hey, you can
Yeah, and
only get so far to start. But
that's a commentary on role-playing games as an industry, isn't it? Nobody reads the fucking books anyway, so it might as well be unreachable.
It turns out if you play it and realize how much is unreachable, then I'll send you something. I'll send you something
win.
else in the
Yeah.
mail as a prize.
Yeah. If you tell me how many paragraphs are unreachable,
Yeah.
I will sell you a book that you can actually read.
We have 3 puzzles set up in one of our game in some different games we have that exist and are theoretically discoverable by anybody. They were supposed to go somewhere that they don't yet.
Mhm.
Um, no one has ever reached out to tell me, "Hey, I figured this out and it doesn't go anywhere." Like I guess they go somewhere. There is nothing where they go.
Yeah,
And so
that's
it's
fun.
very clear you got it right, but no one's figured it out yet. So we
Yeah,
until that moment, I don't have to worry about it. And then I'll be like, "Oh
perfect.
crap. Yeah, let me fix that
Schrodinger's
real quick."
prize.
And so, but yeah, it doesn't go. Chat is now revealing that they've known the whole time. Um, so no, I think like I said, for me, like just being able to sit down and talk about this thing that, like, as somebody who grew up loving like choose your own adventure games, got to discover fighting fantasy games later on, like thinks it's such a cool format. And again, I think the like recursive nature of like going back to the roots of where Troika came out of, like, such an interesting thing. I do hope you're able to do more in this vein because
Yeah,
I
I
am.
mean, I'm working on the new edition of Tunnels and Trolls with Rebellion, and Tunnels and Trolls is big into the solos, and I am writing a solo for Tunnels and Trolls, so I get to do that, which
Yeah.
is similar. It's not identical, but it's a similar concept. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And that one I'll have the resources to be able to do it right.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't do this right, but you know what I mean.
No, but I mean, let's talk about that for a second because you kind of soft mentioned it here. You also mentioned it to me, like, is because you mentioned like kind of this sense of like sorrow around like the way the book is it really just kind of the delay or wanting to have done more? What is like
Yeah,
for as a
it's I
designer,
mean,
open that up for me a little bit if you want to.
yeah, so like the book was super late, and obviously like it's a weird thing because most people don't care, but the people who do care make it very clear to you that they care. And I just dealt with it really badly. Like I just went like turtle. I put my head away and I stopped looking at Kickstarter. And so that compounds the problem, right?
Yeah.
You're not updating people. They're getting pissed off that you're not updating them. It's entirely on you. And but it becomes really hard to do the work because every time you touch it, you just in the back of your head, you're just like, shit, people are mad at me about this. And the longer you leave it without making an update, the more angry people are when you do write an update saying, I've got nothing to tell you. And so then they kick
Right.
off at you. And it's just a whole fucking horrible cycle.
It is.
So,
It'd be great if people would realize, like, hey, I get that you want an update. I'm not. I will tell you when there is
yeah,
something,
it's
and I
like,
think it's
I mean,
reasonable for people to want one, but they're trying to explain to people who have never made a thing that asking
mm,
for that update triggers so many mental things for the average creator you're wanting to support that it's almost better to, like, I would rather someone email me and say, "Hey, I'm a backer. I'm really excited about the project. If there's no news, that's totally fine. I just wanted to check in and make sure everything was okay." Or if there was an update on the
yeah,
I would be like, "Oh my gosh, you're the sweetest person in the world," and that would make me want to go work on
totally. Like, I
it.
think the hard thing was like, so this raised, I think 19K, I think, maybe less than that. I can't remember now. I did the maths on it a couple of years ago, and like, obviously you don't keep all that money because you're paying for printing, you're paying for editing, you're paying for art, etc. But there reached a point where the book wasn't done, and suddenly I had bills to pay, and so I had to. You then have to work on shit that pays the bills, right?
Yeah.
And that's again, it's another compounding problem because people see you working on stuff that isn't the thing they've paid you for, and justifiably want to know what the fuck you're doing. And so yeah, it's just been like I love the book. I'm really proud of it. 98% of the backers have been amazing. Like, and like, I say this every year at conventions. Like on the internet, the only people you tend to hear from are the people who are mad at you. When you work at a convention, you get to meet the people who are not mad at you and who like what you do. And so like I've just got back from Dragon Meet, super rewarding, like chatting to people. I feel I'm in a much better place about this book now than I was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And like having Jert and Space Penguin come on board to publish it has been genuinely a lifesaver. Like there's no way this book gets a physical release if Jert doesn't come on board and publish it for me
Yeah.
because the money's gone. Like the money paid my bills for a couple of years. Obviously you try and ring fence the money that needs to pay for printing as much as you can, but when you're faced with, oh shit, I can't pay my mortgage,
If
it's a
if
tough
if
choice to
I
make.
die or I'm destitute, this book will not get made also
Exactly,
too.
yeah. I realize like I know it probably sounds like I'm making excuses. I'm not. I fucked it up, and it took much longer than it should have done, and that's on me.
I mean, I like,
There are things that explain why it took longer. They're
yeah.
not excuses for why it
No,
took
no,
longer.
yeah, and for
Nope.
me as a backer who's one of that 98%, and probably even the smaller percentage who's like, and not only am I part of that 98%, I'm part of the 10% who's like, I fucking get it. Like I'm super thrilled by it. I can't wait to get in my I also think you do really great physical production on things. Like I was super excited when Space Penguin came in also too. I didn't know that was part of the details. I thought they were just helping out. But like it is also good to know that there are great people in the industry. And
Yeah.
this is a regular conversation, right? Like this happened with MythWorks recently got in and helped
Mhm.
out a set of creators. We've come in and been like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay for that so that you can get it out to people." Like it
Yeah.
happens regularly. And I do think it is super helpful as we're talking about solo books to know like you're generally speaking not alone. Even even if you're playing games by yourself as a designer, like reaching out and communicating is helpful. When I had my back out a couple years ago, Mike Martins is in the chat. We were doing middle of the saline. Like I didn't know how to talk about basically discovering that I have a chronic health issue that might plague me for the rest of my life that's
Mhm.
triggered by sitting. Like,
Yeah.
which sounds dumb as hell, but literally means I could not get anything done or move forward on fulfillment for a project that was already done.
Yeah.
And just knowing how to talk about those things and the toll that it can take on creators on top of all the other weird things is so hard. Mike is one of those people who like was super helpful and me being able to just say a thing here like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That's so hard. How are we moving forward on this together?" Like those types of things are so essential and we have to get we have to get into a mentally healthier space as creatives to be able
Yeah. Yeah.
to know we have. So,
Totally.
but yeah, I'm super thrilled by it. Like I said, I just think it's such an interesting project. I hope people like it was super fun to see like Christian just be like, I didn't know this was a well, I we got some alternate names for choose your own adventure in the chat. We've got sue your own
Amazing.
adventure, cease your own adventure,
Choose your own lawsuit would be a
choose your
good
own
one.
lawsuit. Yeah. I mean, but you know, as long as you have 3 feet of steel, come at me. Come,
Yeah. Thank
it's,
God Dan was like, yeah, use Troika, use
yeah,
Troika branding, get that
yeah,
back. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if you've ever chatted to Dan
Dan's great.
Melsonian, but he's
Yeah,
like the nicest man. He's
yeah.
such a lovely guy. I have all the time in the world for Dan and for Troika and for Melsonian.
I mean, when we ran Troika Fest and had Dan on and have had Dan on a couple times, like it's always a
Of course, you could
super
Troika Fest.
delightful.
Of
Yeah, no, you're
course, yeah,
fine. It's always been a super delightful conversation. I love seeing what that creative community does to like surround people also too. So,
yeah,
if you also if you've never checked out Troika before, like this is a great way to check it out. If you're like, I can't find a play group, I can't get people together, I want to find out what this is all about. Like this is a game that you can play Troika all by yourself and get a sense
yeah.
of
And
what
it
it's
does use
like.
Troika mechanics as well, like because Troika's slightly different to Advanced Fighting Fantasy, and I didn't want to just write a fighting fantasy book because in the fighting fantasy books, the combat's very, very simple, and Troika complicates it. And like Troika has that wild initiative system that is in this book. There are some fights in this book that use Troika initiative, and it's fucking chaos, and I love it. I'm very proud of myself for putting that in. I
I
think
love it.
it's one of the things that makes Troika Troika, and this book wouldn't be Troika without the crazy stuff.
Excited. So you mentioned a couple things, but let's briefly talk about like what do you have in the pipeline right now, Chad? If you have questions, this is your last chance to get them in. If you have want to know about this or any of Chris's other projects, this is a great time. But what do you have in queue right now? What are you working on?
So not a huge amount actually. I'm sort of like I'm not winding down. I've reached a point where I can't do this full time anymore. Part of that is because I didn't get this book out 2.5 years ago when I was meant to, and so I haven't been able to do the annual crowdfunders that I wanted to do. So it's just I'm at the point where I'm like I need to get a job again because this isn't paying the bills, which is sad. But at the same time, I've been in this cycle for like 2 years now of just every month being like, how do I pay my bills this month? I need to write something new. How do I pay the bills this month? I need to write something new. And I'm looking at the next year now and being like, I can actually just take some time to work on some stuff
Hmm.
without worrying about putting it out. And so I have a few bigger projects lined up. And the next thing is going to be a sequel to The Wretched,
Cool.
Wretched 2, which again, I intended to bring this to Backer Kit in like October, had to pay bills, had to do other things. But The Wretched 2 is an ASMR horror game. So you can the idea is that you can play using your friends' recordings from when they played the Wretched, or your
Love it.
own recordings from when they played Wretched. So you are exploring the wreck of the Wretched. You're drawing, it's a map drawing game rather than a journaling game. So you're mapping the Wretched, and every now and then you find these recordings from whatever happened to this ship, and you piece together the story of the Wretched as you explore it. My partner is an ASM artist, so the idea is that she is going to record some super creepy voice logs for us. But also you could pick up anybody else's game of the Wretched and use those recordings in your game. That's something I'm super excited about. I don't know exactly how it works mechanically yet, which is partly
Right.
why it's not out yet. But when I figure it out, I'm going to be so happy. I think it's going to be
That
really cool.
sounds, yeah. We just did Cryptid Show. We had a pledge level that was called like which is like a radio host and call-in show. But we did some pre-recorded, like we had a pledge level where people could pre-record their own call to like take the answer off air. Like, but the type of interactivity of play that you're creating with that, like that sounds dope as hell, especially the ability
Yeah,
to just start plugging in other people's.
super excited about that. And the other thing which I've been working on today is obviously there's a new edition of Tunnels and Trolls coming out, which I should be promoting. But Rebellion have got a marketing department, so they can promote that
They
themselves.
can feel free to reach out, Rebellion.
Yeah, so that's going to be cool. Super excited about Tunnels and Trolls as well. But another sequel, I've been wanting to write a sequel to Treasures of the Troll King, my Mork Borg adventure for years. The idea is that it's a mega dungeon. So 5 years, 10 years after the events of Troll King, capitalism has come to Galgenbeck. And so somebody has built a pub on top of the chapel that you end Treasures of the Troll King in, and they've turned it into a tourist attraction. And you can pay to go down into the chapel, but obviously the chapel's in the middle of the sewers, and there's a mega dungeon there. And so I'm going to write this mega dungeon underneath Galgenbeck. But the idea is, and I'm taking some cues from Over Under with this. I said to you before we came on air, I've been writing a Discord bot that's for this. So the idea is going to be that while I'm like crowdfunding this adventure, the tavern's going to be open on Discord. And so you can come and hang out in the tavern. You can, look at the map. You can form an adventuring group, and me and some hand-picked GMs will be online. And it's going to be West Marches, basically. You can hit us up and be like, hey, we want to go down into the dungeon, and we'll run the session for you for an hour. And there's a bot that's going to handle your characters. You're going to be able to buy shit off each other, trade silver, and there's going to be a leaderboard. So you want to get down in the dungeons and pull as much treasure out of them as you can so that you can win some sort of prize. I don't know when that's going to happen. That might be 2026. That might be 2027. Who knows? I've been chatting to Johan Noor about it, and he's super excited about it. So if we can work out some sort of like collab on that so that I don't have to do it all myself, that would be great. But I'm excited about that.
Let me know. I'd love to. We can pull the crew back together from the original AP.
We'll get Sean
go do a
in.
couple weeks of get video and do a couple weeks of dungeon diving on stream. And so no, that's it. Like I'm super excited about that. Like I also really love that you have something that's going to allow you to have the joyful creative bandwidth back, right? Like, and just not having to worry about that.
I don't really want to have to go back to work and like work in an office 9 to 5, but if it means I can like write some cool shit without worrying about whether it makes any money, that's going to be great.
If people want to follow you, what's the best place for them to keep an eye on things?
Blue Sky is a good one. I am loottheroom.bsky.social and newsletter. I aspire to put out a monthly newsletter. Realistically, it's a quarterly newsletter because I don't like bothering people, but the newsletter's got everything in. And go and pick up The Mouth of Winter, which is the thing I'm working on at the moment.
Yeah. We dropped the link in for that. Let me do it again one more time just so people can do it. I'm super excited to do it. Like, again, like I said, you're one of the people whose prose really always just sings to me. I think you and Josh Hitty, honestly, are two of the people who, like, if I see you've written something, I wanna read it. And so I was super excited to see what you were doing with this one. And when it got it, I think I got it on the second day it dropped because I was offline a lot over the last weekend. A couple things coming up here for folks. This is a double stream day, so tonight we are launching a new show. It's part of a year-long initiative called Make Hard Moves. But this is a new show called Show Me Your Moves with Aaron King. Aaron and I will be sitting down once a month We are actually launching a Make Moves Jam also too. That'll be launching in January. Uh, you don't have to make a move every day. You don't have to make a move once a month. Just sometime in 2026, we want to encourage people to explore their lived experience and what they want to see happen at the table through the lens of PBTA moves. We'll be having different special guests on every single month to talk about design in PBTA. Look at some of the moves that have come up in the jam. Going to celebrate this as a community. When we started planning this, we did not know the bakers were going to be releasing the third edition of Apocalypse World, but it's been really great to listen to them talk about how their design is a conversation and reflection on the evolving state of play in their own household and with the people who they play with. So we're looking forward to having tons of great guests on. And Aaron writes some of my favorite Powered by the Apocalypse moves. And I'm super excited to have them on as a co-host, kind of guiding us through this year. We do have a little microzine we put out for it. We've got merch for this also too. We've got dope as hell hats and some cool t-shirts. Adam Voss from World Champ Game Co. Did all the art for him, so we've got that going on. Also, What a Horrible Night is getting a second print run, not for the reason we wanted, but it's been incredibly well received. It is live right now. Pre-orders for that are up and about. If you want to go check that out, please do over at plus1exp.com. And then last but not least, next Wednesday, I'll be sitting down with Rowan from Rascal, but also just a good friend and amazing community organizer in their own right. We're going to be looking back on Intrepid Merchants at what we loved that happened in 2025, just standout moments in the industry from us, and looking forward to what we're excited about in 2026. When I was thinking about people I wanted to have on, there were a handful of them, but Rowan has such a great lens on what's going on in the indie RPG scene and a tremendous love for actual play and other things. So really excited to have them on for our end of year Intrepid Merchants show to talk a little bit more about that. We'll have another episode of Now You've Seen It coming in a couple of weeks. Also, too, we're figuring out this month's structure since we released an extra zine through Zine.Club this month, and therefore that kind of breaks that format. So we're trying to figure out what exactly we're going to do with it, but we will have something in that spot on the third week of the month. Also, lastly, we're playing this weekend Ritual Deck, which is a game of teenage card battlers and amnesiac spirits and solving the mystery of that. It is a Carve from Brindlewood game, which I know Chris is also a fan of the Brindlewood Bay system.
Yep.
Was one of the people who actually explained, theorized to me in a way that made me want to give it a deeper and more extensive look. So I owe you a debt of gratitude.
We
for that.
were knocking around ideas for a Brindlewood supplement. Not you and I, but this weekend at Dragon Meet, actually. That's another thing that might be on deck.
There we go. I mean, we love it. We love seeing more Brindlewood stuff out in the world. So this one is, a Yu-Gi-Oh inspired card from Brindlewood series. We're going to do a two-shot Friday night and Saturday. And of course, we did bring Viditya Valetti on for that because you don't do a card captures or Yu-Gi-Oh inspired game and not have Viditya on. So come on. And check all those things out. Hit follow here. If you want to support what we do, the best way to do that is to head over plus1exp.com and become a member of Zine.Club. It helps get new games out every year. This year, we will have put out 26 games and a couple little supplements through Zine.Club. We just finished over 2 years, so there are now 54 games that have come out through Zine.Club, independent creators who didn't have to go to Kickstarter to get their games into print. So if you want to support us and everything we do, that's the number one way to do it over at plus1exp.com or RPGZine.Club. I don't have a way to sign off for this one. I'm not going to submit Chris to coming up with a fun idea for it. But Chris, I did promise you one follow-up question at the very end.
Oh, shit, yeah. I've already forgotten what it was.
When we were playing Over Under, were we playing Mothership or not?
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Great.
Yeah.
I love it. That's a great answer. That's one of the two best answers you can give to that.
The choke uprising proved that we were playing Mothership.
There we go. I love it. For people who don't know what the choke uprising was, you wanna give the short pitch on that?
God, I was offline for it. So the choke uprising was an emergent mass panic caused by a couple of players running completely unsanctioned psyops and everyone else thinking it was part of the game.
Yeah. It was absolutely wild. There are tons of great blog reflections and articles that you can put out that that go over some of the details around that. It is I got on a little bit the morning that event happened. I got on an airplane. I didn't look at the game for 3 days and came back to what happened while I wasn't
I
playing.
was at a film festival watching the 4K restoration of the original French version of Martyrs in a room full of people who had never seen it before, and I had a less stressful time than the people playing Over Under.
All right. Awesome. Please go and follow Chris's work. If you haven't picked up a copy of Down in Yongardy yet, please do. The link is down in the description to itch, which will link you over to Chris's website for physical purchases also too. Support independent creators, and thank you for joining us here at Procedures at Play. We will see you soon.